In the modern world, international travel is easier than ever, yet there are some countries that either restrict or outright refuse entry to American citizens. While the majority of countries maintain friendly relations with the U.S., several others impose travel bans, limitations, or highly complicated visa processes for Americans. These decisions often stem from political tensions, security concerns, or ideological differences. In this script, we will explore why certain countries refuse American travelers and what factors contribute to these restrictions. 10. North Korea, a political and ideological divide. North Korea is notorious for its closed-off borders and hostility towards the United States. Despite the possibility of visiting through an approved tour operator, Americans face significant challenges when trying to travel there. The U.S.-North Korea relationship has been marked by decades of tension, from the Korean War to ongoing disputes over nuclear weapons. The North Korean government views Americans as symbols of imperialism, and thus, they are often treated with suspicion. Visitors are closely monitored, and the government strictly controls their movements within the country. 9. Iran, diplomatic tensions and political unrest. Iran's strained relations with the U.S. have existed for decades, particularly after the 1979 Iran hostage crisis and continuing tensions over Iran's nuclear program. Although U.S. citizens can technically visit Iran, the process is highly restricted, often requiring travelers to be part of an organized tour. The U.S. State Department advises against visiting Iran, citing the risk of arbitrary detention and the lack of diplomatic protections. The complex visa process and heightened scrutiny at checkpoints make traveling to Iran difficult and risky for Americans. 8. Cuba, limited entry for Americans. Although travel to Cuba was made easier after the 2014 easing of U.S. restrictions, the Trump administration rolled back many of these changes, making it more difficult for Americans to visit. The U.S. government prohibits most American citizens from traveling to Cuba for leisure purposes. Instead, American travelers must travel under one of 12 authorized categories, such as educational, humanitarian, or family visits. While some may still visit for business purposes, the restrictions prevent casual tourism, and violations can result in fines or penalties. 7. Saudi Arabia, religious and gender-based restrictions. Saudi Arabia is known for its strict interpretation of Islamic law, and this has had an impact on tourism. While American citizens can visit for specific purposes, such as the Hajj pilgrimage, leisure travel is more complicated. In addition, the country's gender segregation policies, which restrict women's freedom in public spaces, have raised concerns among American travelers, particularly female tourists. American women must adhere to conservative dress codes and other cultural norms, which may be uncomfortable or unacceptable to some. 6. Libya, ongoing civil war and political instability. Libya has been in a state of civil war for many years, and a lack of a functioning government and widespread violence makes it dangerous for foreigners. While the country is not officially closed to American travelers, the U.S. State Department strongly advises against visiting Libya due to security risks. Travelers face the possibility of kidnapping, attacks, and political instability. With no U.S. diplomatic presence in the country and numerous armed groups operating in the region, Libya remains a challenging destination for American citizens. 5. Somalia, terrorism and civil unrest. Somalia is one of the most dangerous countries for Americans to visit due to the ongoing conflict and the presence of terrorist organizations like Al-Shabaab. The U.S. government has issued a travel warning, advising against all travel to Somalia. American citizens face the risk of being caught in violent confrontations or kidnapped by terrorist groups. The government's inability to maintain control over large parts of the country, combined with the threat of violence, makes Somalia a no-go zone for most American travelers. 4. Syria, civil war and terrorist threats. Syria has been embroiled in civil war for nearly a decade, and the situation has only worsened over time. The U.S. government has issued multiple warnings against traveling to Syria due to the high risk of violence, terrorism, and kidnapping. American citizens are at significant risk of being targeted by both government forces and extremist groups, including ISIS. The State Department has suspended consular services in Syria, and the U.S. Embassy has been closed for several years. As a result, Syria is effectively off-limits for most American travelers. 3. Venezuela. Economic crisis and crime. Venezuela is facing one of the most severe economic crises in the world, with shortages of food, medicine, and basic goods. The country's political unrest and rampant crime have made it an increasingly dangerous place for foreigners, including Americans. While the government does not outright ban U.S. travelers, the U.S. State Department has issued travel warnings urging Americans to avoid the country due to the risks posed by violent crime and the lack of basic services. The ongoing political instability makes Venezuela a difficult and unsafe destination for American tourists. 2. Yemen. Ongoing civil war and terrorism risks. Yemen is another country that is currently embroiled in civil conflict, with multiple factions fighting for control. The U.S. government has strongly advised Americans to avoid travel to Yemen due to the threat of violence, kidnapping, and terrorism. Both Al-Qaeda and ISIS operate in the country, and the lack of a functioning government makes it difficult for foreigners to travel safely. The U.S. Embassy in Yemen has been closed, and there are no official consular services available. As a result, Yemen remains a dangerous destination for American travelers. 1. Afghanistan. War, terrorism, and political instability. Afghanistan has long been a conflict zone, and with the withdrawal of U.S. troops in 2021, the security situation in the country remains volatile. The Taliban now controls much of the country, and terrorism remains a significant threat. The U.S. government has issued a blanket travel warning advising against all travel to Afghanistan due to the high risks posed by armed conflict, terrorism, and a lack of a stable government. American citizens in Afghanistan are at high risk of being detained or attacked, and the country is currently not an option for most U.S. travelers. While many countries remain welcoming to American travelers, several nations impose restrictions or outright refuse entry to U.S. citizens. The reasons behind these travel bans range from political tensions and ideological differences to security risks and ongoing conflicts. American travelers should always be aware of the potential dangers and consult government advisories before attempting to visit these countries. Despite the challenges, travel restrictions are constantly evolving, and there may be changes in the future. Until then, these countries remain some of the most difficult places for Americans to visit. Like, share, and subscribe for more insightful travel content.